Hi, I'm John Martinen, and I love to travel. When I get out to see the world, I like to get off the beaten path, sometimes way off, in order to see the sights, sounds, people, places, and things that most travelers never get to enjoy. You know, I've always been captivated by Vietnam. To most Americans, Vietnam is not so much a place as a cultural symbol representing war and social dislocation. But since the historic resumption of diplomatic relations between the United States and Vietnam a few years ago, Vietnam has begun again to take its rightful place as a fascinating, exotic destination for the serious traveler. Vietnam is a place of wonder, where the cultures of the East blend with those of the West in a unique and special way, unlike any in Southeast Asia. The sun shines brightly in Vietnam, so travelers should really take along a hat. This one's special. It's the kind worn by Viet Cong soldiers during the war. Now, with the help of my trusty Handycam, I'd like to share my experiences traveling there. Come with me as I take you on a private tour of Vietnam. Vietnam is a surprisingly large country, stretching some 1,000 miles from the Chinese border in the north down to the South China Sea. More than 700 miles separate the capital, Hanoi, from Ho Chi Minh City, the former capital of what used to be South Vietnam, when it was known as Saigon. Yet, despite its great length, Vietnam is just short of 25 miles wide at its narrowest point. Our adventure in Vietnam begins aboard a typical motorboat in Hue, the imperial capital, heading out for a cruise along the River Hue. As we pass people going about their business on the shore, we get a good sense of the local lifestyle. Look, our captain steers the boat using his foot. Buddhism lies at the heart of Vietnamese culture, and no visit to Vietnam would be complete without paying a call at a Buddhist temple. We were able to stop and tour this pagoda in Hue. It has 7 levels, each of which, I was told, correspond to the 7 levels of hell one must pass through in order to be reincarnated according to Buddhist theology. After viewing the sights, we met with the head monk. He was warm and welcoming, which made me ask why the Vietnamese people were so very cordial, particularly when talking with someone visiting from a country that was formerly an enemy. He smiled and said, in essence, "We are Buddhists and know that we cannot change the past. We know that we will have little effect on what happens in the future, so we should do everything we can to enrich and enjoy the present." The burning of incense is traditional in the pagodas throughout Vietnam. I was able to watch incense sticks being prepared by covering plain bamboo with a mixture of sawdust, cinnamon, and glue. This woman makes about 3,000 sticks each day. It looks simple enough, but when I was invited to help, I soon discovered that it is a bit tricky. It took me a while to get the hang of it, but with her help, I was eventually able to make a presentable incense stick. Moving on, we came upon these water buffalo. Some boys having fun, and people working in the rice fields. This is where the rice is packed and sold to the local people. I've always wondered how rice paper was made. Well, did I find out. The Vietnamese use rice paper to wrap food, and it can be found practically everywhere throughout the country. The rice paper set out here at the roadside will be dried by the strong midday sun in just a few minutes. 100 pieces sell for 60 cents. Speaking of food, I stopped at several very busy local markets during my trip, and the selections were most impressive. When I think of Vietnam, I think of history, religion, art, all intertwined, fabulous food, and unfortunately, war. We Americans call it the Vietnam War. The Vietnamese call it the American War. A curious symmetry. Throughout my trip, I was able to see some present-day reminders of that war, which left a lasting impression upon me. The ruins of this temple date from the 7th century, but were further destroyed when the area was hit heavily with Agent Orange. It's taken a long time for the forestation to grow back. This is one of the holes made by the mortar shells. It is a testament to this land that not even the scars of war blight its natural beauty. Here's the entryway to a bombed-out cavern, what used to be the site of an underground Viet Cong hospital. At the top, 3 holes created in the ground when bombs passed through, killing over 100 soldiers inside. South of Saigon, we find the Cu Chi tunnels. This model shows how the Viet Cong were able to hide inside these booby-trapped underground labyrinths. The enemy couldn't find the Vietnamese because the tunnels were too small for the larger-framed Americans to enter, but they were just large enough for the Vietnamese. Gongs are used to call the devout to religious services. But metal for gongs is extremely expensive here in Vietnam. So, after the war, shell casings were melted down and refashioned into gongs. Today, they're available as souvenirs. I've got this very bright one hanging in my office right now. The shopkeeper showed us just a few of the shell casings he's collected, which I imagine will very soon become new gongs. In Vietnam, art and handcrafted items are beautiful and very important in commerce. So I set out to see some of the handcrafted items as they were being made. At this factory, I saw workers chiseling, sanding, and polishing raw marble into beautiful statues. At another, artisans crafted meticulous wood carvings, all by hand. There were paintings too, and patterns being sewn into silk. Of course, silk comes from silkworms, and here are some young ones. In a few days, they wind up in cocoons, and then the silk is ready. If you look closely, you can see the emerging strands being bundled together. After being harvested, they are woven together into fabric. This automated weaving machine produces 30 meters of silk in 8 hours. By hand, she can manage only 3 meters in 8 hours. At markets like this one, I found many opportunities to shop for souvenirs, including one of my favorites, hats. I was looking for something to carry my purchases in, so I picked up one of these baskets. Look at everyone laughing. The local people in the market thought it funny that this foreigner would actually pay for something that they use to haul dirty laundry. Motorbikes and cycles are evident throughout the day. Navigating through traffic in Vietnam is not for the faint of heart. Brave the traffic we did. The streets really get clogged in the afternoon when the kids get out of school. Watching this beautiful sunset over the River Hue outside my hotel window was a wonderful way to end a long day of taking in Vietnam's cultural bounty. The citadel in Hue was the epicenter of the Vietnamese imperial court for centuries, until the last emperor reigned there in the 1950s. I found it noteworthy that during the Vietnam War, over 150 soldiers were killed at this moat just outside the royal palace as they were trying to take the citadel. Yet, despite the devastation of war, the citadel's beauty remains. Today, visitors even have a chance to dress up and play emperor or empress. The real emperors are buried nearby at 2 imperial burial sites, and the contrast between them couldn't be greater. First, we take a quick look at the one which is traditionally Vietnamese. Here I am, riding a characteristically Vietnamese stone horse which guards the remains of the monarch. The style of this tomb is in marked contrast with that of the second-to-last Vietnamese emperor, Cai Du, which is very much in the French tradition. It's beautiful. There's an interesting story about Cai Du. He was allegedly the father of Bo Dai, the last emperor of Vietnam. But it is said that Cai Du was in fact a homosexual and did not have a son. So Bo Dai, the last emperor, is believed to be the son of a mandarin who had a liaison with the empress. This is a statue of Cai Du, who is buried 17 meters below. After spending so much time with royals, it seemed only fitting to have our own royal banquet, complete with traditional entertainment. The performances were delightful, and the Vietnamese cuisine, Asian with a French twist, superb as always. The evening ended as the emperor floated lighted candles on the river, in honor of those who have died in war and peace. These traditional musicians helped to wind down my stay in memorable fashion, playing a song long known to us all. Well, that concludes our jaunt through Vietnam. I hope you'll now appreciate, as I do, that the war is indeed over, that Vietnam is a place and one truly worthy of a visit. And as the bitter events of a no longer so recent history fade into memory, replaced by happier times, that Vietnamese culture and cordiality will once again take center stage. I'm John Martinen. Until next time, I'll be looking for you on the road less traveled.